My husband's girl best friend humiliated me on camera, so I made him choose the first time Claire's mother said it. I thought I'd misheard her over the hum of the softbox. We always thought Claire would marry him, not you. I froze mid-pose, one heel slightly off the seamless white backdrop, my fingers still arranged the way Claire had just told me. Chin lifted, hand at my collarbone. The camera shutter kept clicking like nothing had happened. Mark stood behind the softbox, half in shadow, hands jammed in his pockets, staring at the floor like he wanted it to open up and swallow him. Claire didn't say a word. She just kept shooting, the lens trained on me, as if her mother hadn't just casually implied I was the understudy who somehow ended up with the leading man. Her sister Jenna laughed from the velvet couch, swirling a glass of white wine. It's cute she's filling in, though. I heard that one loud and clear. The room smelled like hairspray and expensive candles. The walls were pure white, the kind you only risk if you never touch anything yourself. Claire's home studio took up half of the top floor of her parents' coastal mansion. Floor-to-ceiling windows, racks of designer clothes, a backdrop system that put most small businesses to shame. And me, Anna, 30 years old, school admin by day, unpaid model by unfortunate favor, married to Mark, 31, who apparently came with a lifetime membership to this family's delusions. Claire adjusted a dial on her camera like we were in a real professional shoot. Chin up a little, Anna. Look past me toward the window. Look past her. As if I hadn't been invisible since the second we walked in. I tried to hold the pose, but my face felt like it was made of wet clay. My smile wouldn't stay where I put it. I could feel Elise, Claire's mother, watching me from the couch. The way you watch someone try on a dress you already know you're going to say no to. As I forced my eyes toward the window, my brain was screaming, "This is insane! This is not normal! You are letting them do this to you!" And then the other voice, "Don't make a scene. Don't be that wife. Mark is already uncomfortable. Just get through it." "Gorgeous," Claire said without warmth. The shutter clacked 3 more times. Mark shifted behind the light, cleared his throat. I didn't look at him, because I knew if I saw his face, if I saw that guilty, conflicted look, I might either burst into tears or walk out and never come back. As I force a smile for the lens, I thought, am I overreacting if I walk out? Or am I finally respecting myself? "Let's try one more setup," Claire said. "Mom, can you fix her hair? It's falling weird on her shoulders." Elise stood up, tottering slightly in heels that did not belong in a home. She stepped into my space without asking, fingers cool against the back of my neck as she fluffed my hair like I was a doll. "You're very pretty, Anna," she said too loudly. "We just always assumed it would be Claire and Mark. High school sweethearts. You know how it is. He was here more than he was home." I felt Mark flinch more than I saw it. "Mom," Claire muttered, but it was the kind of half-hearted protest you give when you don't actually want someone to stop. Jenna chimed in from the couch. "Yeah, remember that New Year's Eve when you and Mark—" Claire cut her off sharply. "Jenna, shut up." Her cheeks were pink. Not embarrassed for me. Embarrassed that her sister might say too much in front of the wife. The wife, me, the legal spouse, the person he'd chosen, the person they were talking around like I was the help. I swallowed hard. My eyes burned. Mark still said nothing. "One more," Claire repeated, raising the camera. The shutter started again. I told myself, one more setup. You can do one more. Then you're leaving. And you are absolutely 100% going to confront Mark the second you get in the car. Claire had me turn to the side. The softbox buzzed. The air felt thick. And then Elise, as if she'd been saving the worst for last, said it again. Sing-song this time. "Our son-in-law always was so patient with our nonsense, wasn't he?" Our son-in-law. I dropped my hands. The pose collapsed like someone had cut the strings. The camera clicked on an empty frame as I stepped back from the backdrop. "I think we're done here," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Claire blinked behind the camera. "Oh, I still need a few more shots for the series." "I'm done," I repeated. I walked past her, past Elise's startled face, past Jenna's smirk, straight toward the chair where I'd left my tote bag. The room went quiet, except for the faint whir of the studio fan. Behind me, I heard Mark finally move. "Anna!" I didn't look back. My hands shook as I grabbed my bag, but I focused on the simple motions. Phone, keys, strap over shoulder. Get to the car, breathe later. That's how the photoshoot from hell ended. Not with an apology, not with a group hug, but with my first small act of defiance, walking off their perfect white set before they finished using me. Outside, the coastal air hit me like a bucket of cold water. I made it to the car, slid into the passenger seat, and stared straight ahead, while my heart pounded in my ears. Mark got in a minute later, closing the door gently, like he was afraid to startle me. He gripped the steering wheel with both hands, but didn't start the engine. "That was weird, right?" he whispered. I let the word sit between us for a second. Weird. Felt like calling a hurricane a little windy. "Weird isn't the word," I said finally, still staring at the ornate iron gates of Claire's family estate. He shifted in his seat. What do you mean? I turned to look at him then. Really look at him. The boy they'd all grown up with. The man I'd married. Sitting there like a kid caught between divorcing parents. How much time do you have? I asked. Because this wasn't just about a couple of gross comments during a photo shoot. This was about years of being treated like a placeholder by the woman who'd been a ghost in my marriage since day one. Claire had been part of Mark's life since kindergarten. She was the girl best friend everyone joked he'd end up with. When we started dating in our mid-20s, she was this vague figure who lived in another city, always just off stage in his stories. Claire and I skipped prom for a movie marathon. Claire and I used to bike down to the pier at sunrise. It was always Claire and I, like a brand. I'd tried to be cool about it. I'd invited her to everything. Birthdays, barbecues, group trips. She never came. The excuses were always plausible. Work, travel, a sick pet. But it added up. She didn't come to our wedding. Sent a gift, a tasteful vase, and a text saying she couldn't get away. No call, no video message, nothing. When she did occasionally appear in our coastal city friend group, holiday gatherings, big birthdays, she made a point of talking only to Mark. I'd wedge myself into conversations, ask her questions about her photography, her travels, her work. She'd answer politely, then swivel back to him with, "Remember when we—" like I wasn't there. I told myself she was just socially awkward, that some people didn't know how to transition childhood friendships into adult ones that included spouses. Mark said the same thing. She's weird with everyone, I promise. She just doesn't do small talk. But weird with everyone didn't match what I saw. Her lighting up with him, then going gray when I spoke. Her liking all his Instagram posts and ignoring mine. Her responding to his texts in minutes and leaving mine on read. In our kitchen that night after the shoot, the anger I'd shelved in the car came roaring back. I slammed a cabinet door harder than I meant to. A glass clinked inside. Mark flinched. I'm done pretending she's just socially awkward, I said, setting a bottle of wine on the counter with a thunk. Mark ran a hand through his hair. Anna, I know today was a lot, but my mom said Elise always says that kind of stuff. She doesn't mean anything by it. Your mom wasn't there, I snapped. You were. You heard her call you their son-in-law, twice. You heard Jenna say it was cute that I was filling in. Did you think that was fine? He looked miserable. I didn't know what to say without making it worse. I didn't want to embarrass you more. So you just stood there, I said quietly. His shoulders sagged. We just won't go over there again, okay? I'll tell Claire the photos didn't work out. We'll make an excuse. Like it was that simple. Like never going back into that house would erase the way they'd treated me. I didn't tell my own family. I could already hear the responses. Maybe they were just joking. You two are solid. Who cares what some old friend thinks? Are you sure you're not just jealous of the pretty friend? Instead, that night, I lay in bed scrolling through years of messages to Claire. Invitations to parties, to coffee, to girls' nights. Little attempts at connection that had been met with curt can't sorry replies or silence. I hovered over her contact, felt that old, pathetic hope bubble up. Maybe if I explain how today made me feel, she'll understand. And then I hit delete contact instead. I fell asleep rehearsing a calm, rational speech for Mark. Something about boundaries and respect and choosing your spouse in public. I was going to say it over coffee the next morning, before work, when we were both less raw. But the next day, before I could open my mouth, a notification popped up from my sister-in-law, Madeline. You need to see this. And everything derailed. Weeks before that message, before the photo shoot, before the walkout, I'd been sitting in a coffee shop with Mark when the olive branch appeared in my DMs. We were sharing a muffin, his laptop open between us, when my phone buzzed. I glanced down and saw the name that always made my stomach clench a little. Claire. Wow, I said, half laughing. Speak of the devil. What? Mark looked up. She messaged me. I turned the phone so he could see. Claire. Hey, Anna. Random question. Would you be open to modeling for my final project? I need a couple portraits, and I think you'd be perfect for the concept. No pressure if not. My first reaction was suspicion. Why me? Why now? She'd never shown the slightest interest in me as a person. But then another thought crept in. Maybe she's finally trying. People grow up. Maybe she realized she's been distant, and this is her way of fixing it. Wow, that's nice, Mark said, reading. His face lit up a little. You should do it. It'll be fun. I'll come too. Be your emotional support husband. I watched his excitement and felt this weird mix of hope and dread. You really think this is her being an adult about things? He nodded. Yeah. She's been buried in this photography program. Maybe now that it's wrapping up, she's making more space for people. This could be a good reset. I wanted that. I wanted to stop feeling like the villain in some invisible love story I hadn't agreed to be part of. So I typed back, Sure, that could be fun. Let me know details. On the drive home, I overthought everything. What do you wear to be photographed by the woman who everyone thought your husband would marry? At home, I stood in front of the mirror cycling through outfits. Too sexy felt like I was competing. Too casual felt like I didn't care. I landed on high-waisted jeans, a simple white tank, and a soft blazer. Confident, but not trying too hard. I practiced a few poses I'd seen on Pinterest, feeling ridiculous. Madeline texted while I was doing eyeliner. Madeline, you sure about this? Claire's intense. Me. I know. I just feel like if she's reaching out, I should meet her halfway. One last chance, you know? Madeline. Just remember you don't owe her anything. I put my phone down and told myself Madeline was being protective, that I was being mature, taking the high road. On the actual day, as we drove toward the part of town where the houses get bigger and closer to the ocean, my nerves kicked back in. Can I ask you something? I said, watching the trees blur past. Anything, Mark said, one hand on the wheel, the other resting on my knee. Did you and Claire ever have a thing? Like, actually? Not just in everyone's heads. He sighed, like he'd been expecting this. I had a crush on her in high school. It was pretty obvious. She never wanted to risk the friendship. We kissed once at a party. It was awkward, and we both pretended it didn't happen. That's it, I swear. I studied his profile. And you're sure that's over? Like, there's no part of you that wonders what if? If there was, he said, glancing at me, I wouldn't have married you. High school was a long time ago. I decided to believe him. Because if I didn't, what was I doing in this car? We turned a corner and the wrought iron gates of Claire's family estate came into view. They opened slowly, automatically, like something out of a movie. Beyond them, the driveway curved up to a house that looked more like a boutique hotel than a home. White stucco, huge windows, manicured hedges. As we pulled in, I gripped my tote tighter. The favor I was doing for her suddenly felt like walking into a test I hadn't studied for. Inside, the trap was already set. Claire's home studio was all white and chrome, soft music playing from hidden speakers. Her camera and lights were already in place. She wore black jeans and an oversized linen shirt, her hair in a messy bun that looked effortlessly perfect. Hey, she said when we walked in, giving Mark a quick hug and me a brief perfunctory one. Thanks for coming. Her mother, Elise, appeared with 2 wineglasses. There he is, she cooed, going straight for Mark. She kissed his cheek like he was family. Our favorite almost son-in-law. I laughed politely, the way you do when someone's joke is off, but you don't want to make it weirder. Hi, Elise. Thanks for having us. She gave me a once-over, then turned back to Mark. You look so handsome. Doesn't he, Jenna? Jenna, perched on the velvet couch, with her own glass of wine, glanced up from her phone. Always. Claire, you should pose with him for old time's sake. Claire fiddled with her lens. We're on a schedule, Jen. She didn't look at me when she said, Anna, you can put your things over there. We'll start with some simple shots. Mark, you remember where we used to build forts? Right where the backdrop is now. They chatted about blanket forts and childhood pranks, while I stepped under the hot lights. The white backdrop made me feel like a specimen on a slide, illuminated and examined. I told myself they were just nostalgic, that if I called out every weird comment, I'd seem insecure. So I swallowed it, again and again. Between shots, Mark drifted closer, resting a hand on my shoulder, like he wanted to reassure me, but didn't quite know how. He laughed awkwardly at his second family's jokes, but he didn't challenge a single one. When Elise said, some bonds never fade, with that pointed little smile, I met Claire's eyes through the camera. Her face was unreadable, but the way she didn't correct her mother, didn't redirect, didn't say, hey mom, Mark is married now, told me everything. This wasn't cluelessness. This was curated. I was a prop in her story. At one point, I escaped to the bathroom, my heart racing. I locked the door, leaned against the cool marble sink, and pulled out my phone. Madeline. How's it going? Me. You would not believe this. I typed a whole paragraph about Elise's comments. Jenna's cute she's filling in, the way they called him, our son-in-law. Then I deleted it and just sent, me. I'll call you later. It's bad. I stared at my reflection, reapplied lip balm with shaky hands, and made a decision. I would endure just long enough to leave with some dignity. Then I was done with playing the bigger person for people who clearly enjoyed making me smaller. I didn't know then that enduring meant my humiliation would end up on video. That night, after the shoot and the car ride and the half-fight in the kitchen, I tried to move on. I poured myself that glass of wine with shaking hands. I sat on the couch with my laptop open, drafting a text to Claire. Today was not okay. I felt really disrespected. I stared at the words, imagining every possible response. You're overreacting. It was a joke. My family is just like that. I deleted the draft. Instead, I opened the Notes app and started a list. Every slight, every weird comment, every time she'd excluded me or treated me like an afterthought. It was petty and obsessive, but it made me feel less crazy, like there was a record of what I'd put up with. Mark came in and sat on the other end of the couch. We just won't go over there again, he repeated, softer this time. I'm sorry, Anna, I really am. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Later, as I was closing my laptop for the night, a notification banner slid down from the top of my screen. Instagram, new message from Madeline. My stomach dropped. I opened it. Madeline, you need to see this. Below it, a video icon. I tapped it with a sinking feeling. The video was a screen recording from Madeline's phone. I recognized Claire's username at the top, the little green ring that meant close friends. The caption read, "When your replacement doesn't know she's a replacement." The video started with me on that white backdrop, mid-pose, smiling my brittle smile. You could hear Elise in the background. "We always thought Claire would marry him, not you." Then Jenna. "It's cute she's filling in, though. Someone." Jenna, I think, snorted. The camera zoomed in on my face, catching the exact moment my smile faltered. My hands started shaking so badly, I had to set the phone down for a second. I picked it back up and hit pause, my own frozen expression staring back at me. I forwarded the video to my email immediately. Some part of me knew I needed proof, because if I tried to describe this to anyone without it, they'd say I was being dramatic. Madeline called almost instantly. "Have you seen it?" she demanded. "Yes," I croaked. "She posted that to her close friends like it's a joke," Madeline fumed. "Like your humiliation is content. I'm so sorry, Anna. I'm so sorry." My voice came out flat. "I'm done letting this slide." There was a pause. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet," I admitted. "But I'm not pretending this is just weird anymore." After we hung up, I sat in the dark living room with the glow of my phone screen. I could have texted the video to Mark right then, let him react at work, or in the car, or wherever he was. But I wanted to see his face. I wanted to watch him watch me being mocked by the woman he kept defending. So I waited. When he walked in an hour later, dropping his keys in the bowl by the door, I was already at the dining table, with my phone in front of me. "Hey," he said cautiously. "You okay?" "Sit down," I said. His eyes widened a little. He pulled out a chair, sat across from me. "What's going on?" I pushed the phone toward him. "Press play." He glanced from the screen to me, then hit the triangle. I watched his expression shift in real time. First confusion, then recognition, then horror. The video played through Elise's comment. Jenna's "cute she's filling in." The zoom on my face. It ended on my half-collapsed smile. He didn't say anything. He watched it again. "If this doesn't bother you enough to act," I said quietly, "we have a bigger problem." He swallowed. "She posted this?" "To her close friends," I said, for laughs. His jaw clenched. "I didn't hear them say, 'replacement.'" I didn't realize. He trailed off, shaking his head like he was trying to clear it. I opened my laptop and turned it toward him. On the screen was my notes app, the list I'd started. Times Claire had excluded me, comments she'd made, things his friends had said, and below that, my Reddit post. Yeah, I had posted about it. Not with names, not with identifying details, just husband's childhood best friend humiliating me during a photo shoot. I'd needed strangers to tell me if I was losing my mind. I read the list aloud. Every example, every comment. My voice wobbled, but I kept going. When I finished, I scrolled down to the Reddit comments. "Read some of these," I said. He scrolled, eyes scanning lines like, "Why is your husband letting this woman disrespect you? He's not neutral. He's choosing her by staying silent. You don't have to compete with his friend for basic respect." He winced at doormat. He winced at spineless. He winced at emotional affair, even though nothing physical was happening now. "I didn't realize I was letting them disrespect you like this," he whispered. "I thought if I didn't engage, it would just blow over." "I won't be in a marriage where I have to beg to be defended," I said, my heart hammering. "So it's either me or her. I'm not asking you to never see your childhood friends. I'm asking you to stop letting this one woman treat me like I'm disposable." Tears filled his eyes. "I feel like the worst husband." "Then be a better one," I said. "What do you need from me now?" he asked, echoing my own words back at me. "I need you to confront her, directly, not a text, not a vague that wasn't cool. I need you to say, 'If you can't respect my wife, you don't respect me.' And I need to hear it. Put it on speaker." He looked terrified, but he nodded. He picked up his phone with trembling hands, scrolled to Claire's name, and hit call. I reached over and pressed the speaker button. The ring sounded loud in our quiet dining room. "Hey, stranger!" Claire's voice burst through the speaker, bright and familiar. "What's up? How's married life?" She laughed, like she always did when she wanted to sound breezy. I didn't say a word. This was his call to make. "Claire," Mark said, voice tight, "we need to talk about that video you posted." There was a beat of silence. "What video?" "The one from your close friends," he said. "Of Anna at the shoot, with your mom and Jenna making comments." "Oh my God," she said, laughing. "Is that what this is about?" "It was just a joke, Mark. You know my family. They've always said stuff like that. Posting my wife's humiliation to your close friends is disgusting," he said, voice shaking now, but with anger. "You didn't just let them say it, you turned it into content." "It was funny," she protested. "Everyone knows they're kidding. Are you really mad over that?" I gripped my chair so hard my knuckles hurt. Every cell in my body wanted to jump in, to tell her exactly what I thought, but I stayed silent. This was about whether my husband would finally stand between me and the people hurting me. If you can't respect my wife, he said slowly, you don't respect me. There it was, the line I'd asked for. She scoffed. Mark, come on. You're cutting me off over that girl? That girl. In that moment, any lingering guilt I'd had about making him choose evaporated. She didn't see me as a person. I was an obstacle, a placeholder, a joke. If choosing between you and my wife felt hard, he said, I wouldn't deserve her. I don't want to be your friend anymore. The silence on the line was sharp. Wow, she said finally. Her voice had gone cold. So she really did get to you. I always knew she was insecure, but this is next level. He didn't rise to the bait. Goodbye, Claire. He ended the call. We both sat there, breathing hard. Then, together, we went into our phones and blocked her number. Then her Instagram. Then her mother's, her sister's. One by one, their names disappeared. As I watched the contact vanish, a new fear crept in. We'd just detonated a social bomb. Claire wasn't just some random girl from his past. She was woven into the fabric of his friend group. Her family hosted half the big parties. People would notice. The next day, Madeline proved me right with screenshots. Group chat, coastal crew. Claire. So apparently, Anna made Mark end our decades-long friendship over a joke. Jenna. She's so insecure, LMAO. Tom. Seriously? Over some teasing? That's wild. Lisa. I love you both, but this feels like a lot. It was just jokes, right? Madeline had replied. You didn't see the video, stay out of it. I texted Madeline privately. Me. I'm not responding in there. Let them talk. I'm not defending myself to people who weren't there. Madeline. I've got your back. But yeah, people are going to pick sides. Seeing names like Tom and Lisa type, it was just jokes, made my stomach twist. These were people who'd been at our wedding, who'd sat at our table, who'd eaten my food. Now they were calling me overreactive because it was easier than confronting their golden girl. For a minute, I wavered. Was I really blowing up decades of friendship over just comments? Was me or her too extreme? That weekend, there was a barbecue with the wider friend group. Someone else was hosting, but Claire would normally be there. I almost told Mark I didn't want to go, that I was tired of justifying my own need for respect. Then I remembered my therapist's voice from years ago, before all this. Avoidance feels like safety, but it often just hands your power to other people. I want to go, I told Mark. I don't want to hide. We walked into the backyard with our potato salad like nothing had changed. Conversations dipped when people saw us. A few awkward hugs, a few too bright, "Hey, you made it!" By the grill, Lisa cornered me while Mark was inside grabbing drinks. "Can I ask you something?" she said, tucking her hair behind her ear. "Sure," I said, bracing myself. "Did you really make Mark end a decades-long friendship over some comments?" she asked. "I mean, Claire's devastated. She keeps saying you're controlling him." I took a breath. "Mark made his own choice," I said calmly. "I just stopped accepting disrespect. If my husband defending me ends a friendship, that friendship wasn't healthy." She opened her mouth, then closed it. I didn't wait for her to regroup. I just smiled politely and walked away. Later that night, after we got home, Mark showed me a message that popped up in his Instagram DMs. Unknown. "Hey, this is Ben. I dated Claire for 3 years. I heard through the grapevine that you cut her off because of how she treated your wife. Just wanted to say, good call. She tried to sabotage every relationship I had after we broke up. She'd joke about my new girlfriends, post stuff making them look bad, tell people they were using me. It took me way too long to see the pattern. You two dodged a bullet. It was the final turn I didn't know I needed. Confirmation that this wasn't about me being uniquely unlikable. This was her pattern. Keep the guy close, make every partner feel like an intruder. Burn it all down if she couldn't be the center." On our couch that night, I turned to Mark. "I'm proud of you," I said. "But I'm still hurt you didn't say anything in that room. I need you to know that." He nodded, eyes earnest. "I know. I hate that I froze. I've spent my whole life avoiding conflict, especially with her. I think I need help with that." "Help?" I asked. "Couples counseling?" he suggested. "Or individual. I don't want to just promise I'll do better and then not. I want tools." For the first time in days, I felt a small, cautious hope. "Okay," I said. "Let's do it." In a therapist's office a couple weeks later, on a couch that had definitely seen its share of tears, Mark finally said out loud what I'd suspected. "I stayed quiet at the shoot because I was afraid of losing my oldest friend," he admitted. "I told myself if I didn't react, it wouldn't turn into a thing. I didn't realize the cost of that was my wife feeling alone." I stared at my hands. "I grew up with parents who used jokes as weapons," I said. Little digs, comments about my weight, my clothes, who I dated. If I ever pushed back, they said I was being sensitive. So when Claire started doing it, I minimized it, told myself it was just me overreacting again. The therapist nodded. So you both have patterns that made this dynamic possible. The work now is creating new patterns. What does it look like concretely for your marriage to be the priority in public and private? We left that session with a simple plan. If anyone disrespected our marriage in the future, friend, family, whoever, one of us would speak up in the moment, or we would leave. No more swallowing it for the sake of peace. On the sidewalk outside the therapist building, Mark squeezed my hand. Next time, I walk out with you, he said. I decided to believe him, not because he was perfect now, but because he'd finally stopped pretending this was all in my head. That evening, we unfollowed a few mutual friends who'd kept defending Claire loudly in the group chat. Our social circle shrank, but it felt cleaner, safer. A few weeks later, at a mutual friend's birthday downtown, I tested those new boundaries. I almost didn't go. I knew Claire wouldn't be there. She and the birthday girl had fallen out over something unrelated, but her name hung over the guest list like a cloud. In the end, I decided my life was too small already to keep giving her that much power. At the bar, Tom approached me, looking awkward. Hey, Anna, he said. Can we talk for a second? Sure, I said, keeping my tone neutral. He scratched the back of his neck. Claire's really hurt, you know. She keeps saying she lost her best friend because you made him choose. I took a sip of my drink, choosing my words carefully. She humiliated me in her home and posted it for laughs, I said. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a choice. Mark made his choice too. He shifted from foot to foot. I've known you both a long time. It sucks seeing everyone split. It does suck, I agreed. But I'm not going to stay in friendships where my basic dignity is up for debate. I left him standing there and walked back to Mark, who wrapped an arm around my waist like he'd been waiting for me to reappear. Later, outside on the sidewalk, while people smoked and waited for ride shares, Lisa came up to me, cheeks pink from the cold, and maybe the drinks. Hey, she said softly. Can we talk? I nodded. I owe you an apology, she said, words tumbling out. I called you overdramatic in the chat, without knowing the whole story. Then I saw the video. Ben showed it to me, actually. It was bad. I'm sorry I didn't believe you when you said you were being disrespected. I studied her face. This wasn't defensiveness. This was genuine discomfort with her own behavior. For a second, I weighed my options. Hold the grudge and keep my circle even smaller, or accept that sometimes people need to see proof before they get it. Thank you for saying that, I said. I appreciate it. So, can we be okay again? She asked, hopeful. We can be better, I said. But next time, believe women when they say they're being disrespected. Don't wait for a video. She nodded vigorously. You're right, I will, I swear. As Mark and I headed home that night, my phone buzzed. A new follower request on Instagram from an account with no posts, no photo, and a username that looked suspiciously like a combination of Claire's middle name and birth year. I stared at it for a second, then hit decline. Months later, life looked smaller on the outside and bigger on the inside. One afternoon, I was scrolling on my phone when an ad popped up. Local photography exhibit. Emerging artists of the coastline. For half a second, I wondered if Claire's work was hanging there. If one of the portraits on those white walls was of me, captured in that moment between smile and collapse. My thumb hovered over the ad. Then I scrolled past. I didn't need to know. At home, Mark and I hosted a small game night. Just Madeline, her boyfriend, and two friends who'd never once made me feel like the third wheel in my own marriage. We played Cards Against Humanity, ate too much pizza, laughed until my cheeks hurt. At one point, Madeline raised her beer and said, 0 toxic best friends in attendance. What a concept! We all laughed. It felt light, not brittle. After everyone left, the apartment was full of empty glasses and the echo of good jokes. I walked into our bedroom and looked at the framed photo on the wall, a candid shot Mark had taken of me at the beach a few weeks earlier. I was mid-laugh, hair whipped across my face by the wind, eyes crinkled, no makeup. I'd decided to print and frame it myself. I liked that it wasn't perfectly lit or retouched. I liked that it was taken by someone who actually saw me. I touched the corner of the frame and thought about that white backdrop in Claire's studio. How small I'd felt, standing there under her lights, trying to be photogenic enough to be tolerated. Narrating this now, I can admit I still sometimes wonder if me or her was too harsh. If there was a gentler path I didn't take. But every time I imagine going back into that house, hearing our son-in-law again, watching my husband stare at the floor, I know I'd rather be alone than disrespected. I kept my Reddit account active. Every so often, I'd get a message from someone whose partner had a girl best friend who didn't seem to like them, or whose in-laws treated them like an outsider. I'd write back, you're not crazy for wanting basic respect. You're not dramatic for wanting your partner to have your back. One night, after replying to a message like that, I locked my phone and curled up next to Mark on the couch. He put his arm around me automatically, pulling me in closer. The room was quiet. No buzzing from group chats full of people debating whether I was overreacting. No ghost of Claire in the corner of every story. Just us. Smaller circle, clearer lines. For the first time in a long time, I felt the absence of her shadow and realized something simple and huge. I hadn't just stopped being the bigger person, I'd finally stopped being the smaller one too.